Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and this video is about transgender madness. So, not saying that being transgender doesn't exist, just that it's exceptionally rare. I don't have any statistics to hand, though. Well, it ought to go without saying. Some people are male and some people are female. And a very tiny number of people are non-binary, which is to say that they're not solely male or solely female. They may be hermaphrodites, they may have the organs of both genders, or they may have a mixture of the chromosomes of the two different types. But there's this latest liberal shibboleth that gender is really a matter of choice. Now, it's true that people can undergo gender reassignment, but some people seem to hold that being male or female bears no relation to one's organs or DNA. It ought to go without saying that there's a very clear definition of what constitutes a male and what constitutes a female. This relates to the generative organs and secondary sexual characteristics such as the size of the Adam's apple and things like that, or breasts, their secondary sexual characteristics, facial hair. Now, I know these distinctions are not absolute because old women may grow some senile hair on the face, things like that. But it seems to be now a litmus test, a broad-mindedness to accept that someone can belong to a gender simply by declaring himself or herself to belong to that gender. Being male or female is not something that people can simply elect to be. I can show you how this could just be dead wrong. And here's an example from another paradigm, not the male-female thing. Right, I am dead. I have deceased. As I'm speaking to you, I am a corpse in this moment when I'm making this video. However much I assert that I am dead, and even if I were to firmly believe that, that would not make me dead. I am alive, and this could be verified because there are objective criteria by which one judges whether a person is dead or alive. Now, admittedly, dying is a process. There might be somebody who's in that intermediate stage who is dying. Might be too late to bring them back. A bit like with gender, yes, there's a minute number of people who are not fully male or fully female, or kind of both. But that doesn't mean that just anyone can opt to be male or female without undergoing a sex change operation. So why does this matter whether people claim that they're male or female when they're not? Sporting advantage. We know we often divide men and women in sports because men tend to have an advantage in many sports, being on average taller, more muscular and so on, having more testosterone is related to these things. Different bone structure, the hips are a bit different, their pelvis is a bit different, all the rest of it. And that's why you divide them, because then men would win almost all the time if that were the case. And there are other reasons. How about changing rooms? Now, we have this convention whereas men and women are generally not nude in each other's presence unless they're in some intimate relationship. So many women and some men would feel deeply uncomfortable to be naked in the presence of the opposite sex when it wasn't a romantic encounter, and they might think that they're going to be molested. Remember, we've got all this Me Too hysteria going on. Not that sexual assault or harassment never occurs, but just that there's a huge overreaction to it. It's an example of disagreeable behaviour and occasionally a crime, which has always happened, which shall always happen, which of course we should try to reduce. And this transgender insanity is just going to increase it. I'm not saying people are literally insane when they claim that being male and female is a matter of choice, just that it's an erroneous statement. And it's an emperor's new clothes thing, that the great and the good jump on this. People think that it proves how wise they are, how open-minded they are to say this, when really it doesn't. That otherwise sagacious and intelligent people are subscribing to a fallacy. Now, often the liberal left people who say, well, gender is just a matter of choice, are the very same people who are very concerned about the gender imbalance. Why is it most engineers are male, or bankers are local cabinet ministers and so forth? Well, we could easily solve this problem. It could be resolved at a stroke by simply getting most engineers to declare themselves to be women and making no changes whatsoever, just carrying on as we are. So this is what flummoxes me, that often feminists, whether male or female, say gender totally doesn't matter, we're absolutely the same. All right, so why would you care whether there are not that many women in this occupation or not that many men in the other occupation if we are the same? Well, because we're being discriminated against. I suppose that's the argument. But could it be that there are distinctions between men and women? Not just the obvious physical ones, that more men have a gift for certain occupations, more women have a gift for other occupations, as well as just being inclined. And there's nature and there's nurture. Again, the choice is not binary. Is it nature or nurture? It's both. But which is it more of? And that's an imponderable. That's far too big a question to try to answer in this brief video. Although, curiously, that people don't seem to be terribly concerned that most flight attendants are women or hairdressers and so forth. And now I know those tend not to be terribly high-paid occupations, or nurses and so on, or girls outperform boys in almost every subject at school, whereas a century ago it was the opposite way around. Is this a problem? It was a few decades ago, it was a matter of grave concern to many feminists that if boys outperform girls in most subjects and things like that, could it be women are less ambitious, financially ambitious, or for power, might redound to women's credit, that they care about what really matters about friends and family more on the whole? We're not talking about every single case. A correlation does not equal predestination, and they're not trying to compete and have more money, and boys are into point scoring in sports more so than girls, and men are into earning more money. I've got more money than you, and one-upmanship, showing off and things like that. So women could have perhaps more satisfaction, even though they've got less material success. And what is success? That's up for each person to define. So I'm saying that the idea that one can be male or female simply by saying one is male or female is specious. And furthermore, that there are differences between men and women beyond the blatant physical characteristics. And these could go to being talented in certain areas. And yes, there are women who are very gifted at the STEM subjects, but I'd a guess not as many as men are. And there are men who are fantastic at literature or language, for example, but not as many as women are. And I don't think it's solely down to conditioning. That's my penny's worth.